Good evening and welcome to Atta Galatta for what promises to be a fantastic evening. So we're all here today for the launch of Nilanjan's new book, The Case of the Secretive Sister. And Nilanjan, please. The chief guest for today is an artist who also happens to be Karnataka's first woman police officer, ex-Director General of Police, Ms. Jija Hari Singh, Madam. So, a crime fighter for the common man is going to help launch a book about crime fighter. And Madam, please. And to be in conversation with Nilanjan today, we have a very well-known person in Bangalore's literary circles, founder of Easy Lip, Mani Maheshwani. So before, and another person that we'd like to invite to join the guests here is Monami. Monami is the artist whose works grace this book and some of her work right there. So I'm going to take just 30 seconds with your permission, Nilanjan, to welcome you on to Atta Galatta. I see a lot of new faces here. So quick introduction to Atta Galatta. Atta Galatta is an Indian language bookstore. We are a bookstore that stocks Indian writing, writing by Indian writers in English. Of course, we have a lot of regional language literature. And we also venue for a very sort of eclectic mix of events and activities. We have authors such as Nilanjan who honor us with their presence and their launches and do a lot of book readings. A lot of other authors who've done their book launches and readings I see in the audience. So we do a lot of book launches, book readings. We do an active, very active poetry session here. We do theatre, we do film screenings. So if any of you are interested in our activities, we do publish a calendar of events that goes out as an email once a week. So if any of you are interested, please do sign up for it, and we won't spam you for more than one time a week. So thank you, welcome to Atta Galatta, and over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and it's really a pleasure to be amongst readers. We are definitely a dwindling lot, but it really feels good to see so many of you today gathered here for Nilanjan's book, and it's such an honor to have Ms. Jija Hari Singh with us to launch the book, and I request her to kindly launch the book for us and maybe handle the comments.
I will launch it first and then say a few words.
Maybe to say a few words.
She's gonna help.
Yeah.
Just fix my company already. You cannot hear what I'm display.
Is it working, the mic?
So mic working? Yes. Yeah. Can you hear me at the back? Yes. That's very good. Keeping my distance. Nilanjan, Mani, Punami, Lakshmi and Subos. And what should I call you? Very eclectic audience of this evening. I'm very, very happy that I have been invited to release this book this evening. I'm very happy that I am visiting Atta Galatta finally, though I have been watching the activities which have been going on here and having wanting to be part of it all. But at last I get an opportunity to come here. I would like to at the very outset congratulate Subodha Lakshmi for creating such a space for Bangalore and doing all this activity. Nilanjan's book, in fact, Mimi called me and said that we would like you to come for the release of a book on the 7th. So I said that 7th I had some other program in the evening, at the same time 7 o'clock. Then next day she called up to say that no, it's on 6. So 6 also there was something. But then she said that, she baited me, saying that we would like you to release a detective book. I said, oh. And I said, and who is the author? He said that, what I understood at that time was that Nilanjan was this IIT-IIM guy who's a techie and all that, you know. I don't know whether she said all that or maybe I sort of assumed. I really do not know. Anyway, I thought that caught my attention and tickled my curiosity. And I said, okay, I'll definitely come for that. I asked her, what is this? She said that it is a humorous detective. It's a detective novel. That's what she said. Then I asked Nilanjan yesterday, what is it about? You know, I have read this book now, and I know what it is. And he said, I would call it a comic thriller. So, what is it actually? You know, I was thinking, is it a detective? Yes, you can call it detective. And the strategy is very much there. Is it a comic thriller? Yes. Is it a comedy? Yes, I would say. Is it a thriller? Yes, it is thrilling in many parts. And it is quite, it catches your attention and you're on edge. You're reading some pages, and sometimes you think that, I mean, sometimes what fascinated me was his felicity with words, as well as the ability to arrange the chapters, so to say. You know, if something he had written in one place was one chapter later, the effect would have been the same. I was thinking that the way it started and proceeded, I was reminded of Coleridge saying that to read Shakespeare, especially books like Midsummer Night's Dream and Comedy of Errors, you have to have a willing suspension of disbelief. Before you open this book, my dear future readers, or I would say that is one quality you should have. And once you have that, and then you enjoy the book. He is not only a way with words, but I found that he is also a painter. Some of those things could be just sketches, paintings, you know, like Pattachitra or something colorful, and that was really, really fascinating. Sometimes it felt like it's a painting and then suddenly it is animated. It is also, I felt that perhaps the day before yesterday when I was long after I read the book, I think last week, but yes, the other day when I was thinking of it, I thought that it would really lend itself to a brilliant film script. It is, you know, straight away it can be converted into a play because there's so much of conversation in it. And with equal felicity, with equal ease, he talks about the atta grinding, you know, an image of atta grinding where in Parapana Agrahara prison. And, you know, the moody response of a young adult daughter. And not to talk about a wannabe. I don't know why he selected a Punjabi. I don't know.
The reason is standing there.
And also, I like fact, I mean, I was quite conscious when I was coming here, Miss Jolly and my boss is inside. So Mr. Chadha obviously thought it was Mr. Haldas and Mr. Nalanjan's cousin, obviously. My boss is inside. But you know what the word was? I wouldn't like to take too much of your time. I would just like to read one or two bits from the book and wind up. If you will allow me. I'm reading, I mean, I liked all the pages, all the chapters, all the incidents, but one or two things, two things which I thought I should read again, I read again, and I'd like to share this with you. Sister D'Souza tossed back her hair and draped her arms over the man's shoulders. She felt his palms slide gently down her back and come to rest on her waist. He rocked her back on her heels. She let herself go, knowing that his powerful arms would be there to support her. Ranjit, of all the men she had known, he was the best. Ranjit, young, elegant, strong, he made her feel so alive, so complete. When she was in his arms, she could feel herself floating away from the dust of the earth, away from the banalities of blackboards and the dead weight of textbooks and examinations. And his technique, of course, D'Souza is the principal of that school that he is presenting before us. And his technique was so good. His firm, gentle touch could effortlessly transport her to a world of sensuality that she had never dreamt was possible. Ranjit was very special. She had been with several other men before. She's a nun. But no one had come close to giving her the pleasure that he did. There was only one problem. Yeah, I was also getting very worried and panting, There was only one problem. Of late, he seemed to have taken a fancy to her. She could see it in his eyes when their gaze met. Just the other day, he had asked her out to coffee. She had refused, of course. There could be nothing personal between them, only business. He was a service provider. She was his client. He gave her what she wanted, and she paid good money for it. This was the ideal relationship, the only relationship that was possible between them. No more, no less, no complications. It is not, for those who have read, you know what I'm talking about. Those who haven't read, it is not what you're thinking. Oh, I misplaced my loss. Please do bear with me. This is where, after Paraparangahara and all those things, Inspector Gowda, on the other hand, was having severe problems in adjusting to the new reality. He hunched over the sister's desk, his fingers gripping its edge. "But madam, how can you simply drop charges like that?" he demanded. "This man is a menace to society." He even had a female accomplice who, pardon my language madam, is one real bitch. Yesterday evening, I nearly caught them both, but they got away. You know they are guilty of a heinous attack on the police? I am telling you, they must be belonging to some gang. I was fully ready to arrest them today, but suddenly I am told that complaint is withdrawn. And now I find this man sitting right here.
Tread softly.
Are you reading this?
No.
And now I'm not giving the game away.
Okay.
I don't like it too. I now find this man sitting right here in your office. What is all this going on, man? Then I gave a few things. I want you to hug each other and say sorry like good boys, said the sister. Can you do that, please? I want you to leave this room as friends. Hug her? This is the inspector talking. I mean, he had portrayed this inspector. I would say that he would be like, this is, modern inspectors don't talk like this, I hope. You know, when I joined 30 years ago, they were exactly like this, you know, they, like Inspector Galatta. Now he says, I must read. Linda doesn't want me to give the game away. Now, Mr. Chatterjee and Mr. Gowda had to hug, so they hugged. Thank you very much, Mr. Chatterjee. That was sweet of you, said Sister D'Souza. Constable, it's your turn now. She calls the inspector constable. She has got the authority because of certain circumstances, which you will find out. This I have to read. I'm sorry. Inspector Gowda's cheeks had turned a light purple. His eyes turned a light purple as he wrestled with the tremendous opposing forces raging inside him. His cheeks puffed out like a mating toad's, changing color with alarming rapidity from purple to red to blue before settling on a thunderous black. That's what I wanted to read. I hope I didn't give the game away.
Very close, but just step back.
Yeah, just step back, you know, just to tantalize you to buy the book and to read it. Thank you very much for
Thank you. Now it's fresh.
all best wishes. Sorry,
Thank you.
all the very best.
Thank you so much.
And happy reading, all of you.
Gallery launch there, but thank you, Paul, wherever you are. Thank you so much. You know, I see a whole lot of people who are in college with me, and they've got used to being in the back bench. Won't have his die hard. There are a couple of seats in the front if you'd like to sit. I don't intend to let you go early, but the door will be locked soon. There are some seats. Here, one here.
Well, thank you so much, teacher. It was a wonderful reading. And I'm sure everyone in the audience is very, very curious now to hear from the horse's mouth what led to this book. And those of you, I think most of you will have flipped to the back of the book to see what it's about. Just to recap very quickly, it's about this 4-year-old girl, Pinky Chadda. She's 4 and her mother. What I want to ask Nilanjan is, how did you conjure up such a fantastic premise?
I think I'll use this. I know comfortable. Thank you. So first of all, before I get into anything, thank you all of you for coming, braving the evening traffic. You know, I've realized this is my second book, so I'm no great author or anything, but I've realized one thing, that one of the great joys of writing a book is that you meet old friends and you make new friends, and so the book sort of amplifies you a little bit more than it would have happened, and that I think is one of the greatest joys. I mean, today I'm really touched to see that I have people in this room who've been with me from nursery. So I've met them many years ago, I won't tell you how many. And I also have people in this room who I met a couple of weeks ago. So in a way I can see all the people who've been a part of my life for all these years in this room now, and I can't tell you how wonderful a feeling that is. And maybe some of you are thinking of writing a book, that may be one of the motivations for writing it, that it really brings people that you think you had lost back into your lives, and new people into your lives. So thank you so much. I think I would like to give you a round of applause for coming. Vani, well, the book happened from multiple things. One is that once I had finished my first book, Bali and the Ocean of Milk, that was a mythological thriller, and somehow I've always had this tug towards mythology. But one of the things that happened with Bali, I realized after it was published and read and all that, is that I felt, and a lot of people ask me, are you writing a sequel, are you writing the same genre and so on, but I was really inhibited because I figured out that I couldn't write freely about it. So I figured out that I couldn't write freely about Indian mythology in English. In vernacular language is a different thing, because of various things, because the way I write, and I cannot help myself, I'm always irreverent and I'm always poking fun and things like that. And India, as you know, after right to life and liberty, the right to be offended is the second most important right. And I felt a little constrained in terms of letting myself go in that genre. But the whole mythology thing stayed, and it stayed in my mind. And the next figure that sort of came up in my head, surfaced in my head, was Hercules. Greek god and all of that. And I wanted to do something with that flavor, but in a modern setting. So that was the third point. And I also wanted to write a detective story. So there were all these elements which were sort of sweeping inside my head. And finally there was also Arvind Kejriwal with his whole common man thing and all that, which had started around that time. So this is an attempt really to create one masala with all these elements. If you'd like, I'll read out a little bit of the first chapter, which may give you a sort of flavor of all the masala that's gone into the book. So, no, the first chapter doesn't give away anything. The name of the first chapter is The Academy of Amazing Amazons. Mr. Chatterjee did not like schools. By the way, I see a lot of my friends from the foundation here, and I think my experience in Nazim Premji Foundation also brought this theme of schools and education into the book. So Mr. Chatterjee did not like schools. He had never liked them. His dislike of school principals was even greater. It is true that Mr. Chatterjee's experience in such matters was limited. He had attended only one school in his entire life and had suffered only one insufferable principal. And that had been 43 years ago. But the memories of those days had been enough for him to develop the conviction that schools were actually elaborate torture chambers designed to inject vast doses of mostly useless information into the heads of the ignorant young lambs that had been marched up to the altar of education. In his time, the primary instrument of torture used to be the cane. These days, however, it appeared to be the javelin. Given a choice, he preferred the cane. It was painful, yes, but much less dangerous than a javelin shoved against one's throat. Especially when the person doing the shoving was a 7-foot-tall woman in brass armor, with a face that was hard as a slab of concrete and legs like smooth a face that was hard as a slab of granite and legs like smooth pillars of concrete. Times had indeed changed, thought Mr. Chatterjee. The headmistress of Bangalore's best convent school for girls looked like Zina the warrior princess. His own headmaster, although a perfectly adequate sadist, did not have an appearance that induced terror in the beholder. He was a plump teddy bear of a man who always maintained the air of a first-rate gentleman, a Bhadralo, even as he was hitching up his dhoti and rolling up his kurta sleeves to embark upon another round of caning. Things appeared to be quite different in this school, however. To begin with, it appeared to be located inside a tropical forest. All around him were exotic orchids and creepers draped around the trunks of trees, with leafy canopies so dense that the sunlight could not penetrate through them. Apart from the headmistress in warrior gear, there were several other women who had hemmed him from all sides. Mr. Chatterjee, all of them carried javelins which they were pointing at his chest. Mr. Chatterjee craned his neck upwards to sneak a quick look. They looked much the same. Dusky, taut-skinned giantesses with powerful muscles rippling below their armor, cheekbones sharp as knives, and unruly rivers of hair that cascaded down to their hips. He was beginning to wonder whether he had interrupted a fancy dress competition among the teachers, when the headmistress thrust a javelin into the air and let out a shriek. "Who is this miserable creature, and what is he doing inside the school grounds?" she demanded. Madam, I am Mr. Chatterjee squeaked. "Madam? What? Madam?" the woman screamed. "Do I look like a madam to you?" She pressed the javelin point harder against his throat. "I am Sister Hippolyta D'Souza, headmistress of the Academy for Amazing Amazons. And who are you?" "Beg pardon, Madam Hippolyta, I am Chatterjee." He forced the words out through the sawdust in his throat. The woman's eyes narrowed. "BA LLB, first division with honors from Calcutta University," Mr. Chatterjee added hopefully. "Chatterjee, Chatterjee," the woman roared. She spun around to survey her companions. "What is a Chatterjee? I have never heard or seen of such a beast. Have you, my sisters?" Her companions crowded around Mr. Chatterjee and scrutinized him from top to bottom. They stared at his round, amiable face, his well-ventilated trousers, and the thick, rectangular plastic-framed spectacles that was last seen atop the noses of unscrupulous lawyers in old black and white films. "Sister Hippolyta, we think he is a man," the women concluded after a brief inspection. "Very last century, but a man all the same." "A man? A man? And what is a man doing here in the land of the Amazon?" Sister Hippolyta screamed. "What does he want?" I'm telling you, madam," Mr. Chatterjee squealed. "Just 1 minute. I am a private detective, founder and sole proprietor of the Chatterjee Institute of Detection, CID for short, and a retired government servant." "Servant? Whose servant? Not mine, definitely," the woman barked. "Unfortunately not, madam," Mr. Chatterjee admitted. "I used to work at the National Insurance Corporation. After I retired, I started a little detective agency of my own. For time pass, you could say. My wife's died 2 years ago. My son and daughter are both grown up and have their own lives. I was getting terribly bored just sitting around at home. That's when I thought of starting my own detective agency. I've always dreamt of being a private investigator. Ever since I was a young boy. I thought it would be so exciting." "Exciting? You came to our academy for excitement?" the woman screamed. "You disgusting old man. I'll show you excitement." She lifted the javelin high into the air and was about to plunge it into Mr. Chatterjee's chest, when he raised his hands and let out a desperate wail. "Please, Madam Hippolyta, please wait. Give me a chance to explain. I've come here strictly for professional reasons. In fact, to represent my respected clients, the Chattas." He reached out in the rear pocket of his trousers and pulled out a thick file of papers. "Here, it's all written down here. Please take a look at it, O noblest of madams." The woman snatched the file from his trembling fingers and opened it. Inside it was a letter which said, "Humble petition seeking the admission of Miss Pinky Chatta to the Academy of Amazing Amazons. Dear Madam, with reference to the above, the below prays to your noble self to graciously consider the humble application of our daughter Miss Pinky Chatta for admission to your highly esteemed, prestigious and most wanted girls' convent school in Bangalore. We are willing and wanting to pay any amount of donation fees, building construction fees, auditorium renovation fees, computer class fees, Bharatnatyam fees, Bora Bora Island study tour fees, and all other fees that may be imposed by your esteemed school. Yours most sincerely, Mr. and Mrs. P. Chatta, parents of Pinky Chatta." Sister Hippolyta finished reading the letter and burst into a maniacal cackle. "Ha! Pinky Chatta, stinky Pinky. I remember that brat very well, an abominable little girl who had come here with her abysmal parents. Didn't even know how to spell Thysis, which by the way, anyone knows? One free copy for someone who can spell Thysis.
Not to the P at least.
Phthis. How could anyone imagine that she would be admitted to the Academy of Amazing Amazons, and that too with the help of an emissary such as you? Our academy has no place for weaklings like Pinky Chatta. Here we admit only the wiliest of warriors, the finest of fighters, and the strongest of survivors. Our students must have the intelligence of the fox, the strength of the ox, and the beauty of Botox, one of our companions helpfully supplied. Exactly, Botox, Sister Hippolyta agreed. She raised the file high and slammed it into Mr. Chatterjee's head, sending the papers careening into the air. "You, Chatterjee, your petition is rejected. You have entered these grounds without our permission. Now you must pay for your audacity." "Sisters, tie him up," she commanded. "And then, please do the needful." Before he knew what was happening, the women had flung themselves upon him with fearsome war cries. Thick ropes of jute appeared in their hands with which they bound him from head to foot. They fastened the rope to the ends of a javelin and strung him up by his limbs like a trussed-up pig. Heaving him over their shoulders, they marched towards a blazing fire that had sprung up from nowhere. Mr. Chatterjee wriggled and screamed for all he was worth, but his cries were drowned by a loud chant that the women had taken up. So I don't know if some of your Bappi Lagi fans like me might recognize this. You are my chicken fry, you are my fish fry, and this is the time, baby, to bid you bye, bye, bye. They hoisted him over the fire. Mr. Chatterjee could feel the flames licking at him through the seat of his pants. Help, help, someone please help me, Mr. Chatterjee yelled. These women are burning me up. Madam Hippolyta, what exactly are you doing? Please help. A pair of hands had gripped his shoulders and were shaking him hard. Probably some ancient tribal technique to make sure that he was uniformly roasted on all sides, Mr. Chatterjee thought in despair, when he heard someone speaking into his ear. And whether he survives or not, you'll have to read it. As you can see, there's a bit of a fantasy element here, and as you can also see that the problem statement in a way is the common man's problem statement, which is all these admissions to schools, etc., which I suffered a lot, and maybe just a quick one, or it'll terribly embarrass my daughter who's hiding below the seats there. But when we were trying for her school admission, there is a very famous school near Rangashankara called Innisfree House School, and the admission procedure is first come first serve, which means they have greater diversity and they don't make the kids go through all these hoops and all that. So we went there. But the catch is and if you're on the first 75, you are likely to get admission. So the trick question is, what constitutes the first 75? Because admission forms are given out 9 a.m. on the second Monday of November. Now what constitutes the first 75? The first 75 people in the queue. So the question to the audience, for once I get to ask the question, is, when do you think the queue began? If the gates open at 9 a.m. on Monday, when do you think the queue began? Go ahead. Be bold.
Saturday morning.
Huh?
Saturday morning.
One more attempt.
Friday morning.
That year, the queue began on Thursday morning for the next Monday. It used to be, yes, it started, which means that the queue starts by somebody coming and plonking a chair in front of the gate. And then somebody else comes and plonks a chair at the gate. So, in some way, this book has also been, inspired a little bit by these type of things. Which is the common man needs to almost become a superman to solve some of the issues that he has in daily life. And that's the inspiration behind one of the, pictures.
What he just told you is probably something that you can see here, but you can also see him wearing a sandal. So for me, the association started more as the curious case of Nilanjan rather than the curious case of the sister here, because this gentleman already had Paul Fernandez on board, who was doing the cover for the book, and usually whenever I would pick up a book by any Indian author, the cover would usually be quite run-of-the-mill. And here he was speaking of some mythical beast called the inner cover, which I'm not sure if anyone of you have seen in any of our Indian publications. So that got me hooked, and then he gave me a bound script. And he also had a very clear idea about the protagonist. So the character sketch was very, very easy for me. The idea of the cape and the sandal was his, and I started building from there when we did a Q&A where we spoke about each character and their height, their weight, their whether they stoop or not, if they are balding and all those details. And then I went to Church Street, looked at the offices that are there in these older buildings, right, which have a lot of character, but they would have a light bulb hanging by a string, that kind of a thing. So try to capture all of that, and having a bound script and also having access to Nilanjan gave me the it just built from there, and then what you see down there, the larger frame, that's what is the inner cover right now.
Well, that truly was a fascinating bit of information, because I think the illustrations did add a lot of atmosphere to the story and lent it the light air, which is what the book is about, in fact. To me, when I read the book, it was more like, watching these sitcoms in the 80s on TV, one of those H.O. Zindagi or Mungeri Lal, one of those, it's very clean. I could sit and watch those episodes with my mother, with my grandmother, or with anyone. So this is what the book was like, it was in parts laugh out loud funny, and in other parts it was dripping with sarcasm, and it really takes care of anybody's, Sunday afternoons, very well, I would say. But what I couldn't help notice was this is a genre which is still emerging, not just in India, but elsewhere in the world as well, called the cozy mysteries. There is no blood, there is no gore, there is a mystery, but you know that nobody is going to come off it harmed, and you know that it keeps you glued to the book as well. And that's what Alexander McCall Smith did. Those of you who read McCall Smith, he kind of has pioneered the genre, and I do see a bit of an influence by McCall Smith. Is that true? And who else?
Yeah, so absolutely right. So McCall Smith is a very strong influence in this book, and I love his books. And I thought that something like that wasn't around in Indian literature. So this is really, like she said, not about blood and gore and all that, but still keeping the whole premise of a detective story, which is the suspense, the investigation, that you don't know what is going to happen next, and then you wish to find out, and so on and so forth. But I've tried to keep that sort of tone there, but continuing with the problems of daily life, so to speak. But there have been other influences. For those of you who are Christie fans like me, would remember one of his lesser-known detectives, which is Parker Pine. And I think he just wrote one or two of Parker Pine, I think just one. And Parker Pine had this fabulous line to advertise his agency, which I don't think has been, bettered by any advertising person. And his agency, the line was, "If you are unhappy, call upon Parker Pine." Now, to me, that is a line that I must have read Parker Pine when I was like 15, 16, but it is a line that has stuck in my head. If you are unhappy, call Parker Pine. So, so this is really a combination of that. And Mr. Chatterjee, obviously the line is not good, but it basically says, professional investigations with a personal touch. So that's the sort of genre I was aspiring to. How far I've succeeded or failed, you will be able to tell me better. The other thing is, in both my earlier book as well as this one, I try and combine two, in a way, which mutually contradictory genres, which is the thriller and the comic. To my mind, it's a difficult thing to pull off. It doesn't always work, because the moment laughter dissipates tension, but it's something that I'd like to do. And there have been a few people who've successfully pulled that off. So if you're talking of influence, John Mortimer and the Rumpole books, that's a big influence. So those are the sort of influences I think that were there.
My next question would be, when those of you who have read Nilanjan's first book, yes, it is a mythological thriller, and it's also a very
I think Ms. Hari Singh has to leave. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us. Thank you.
Yeah, see, we were talking about, I think I was going to ask about this guy, but yeah, that's a question I really want to ask. See, if you look at McCall Smith, not in his Botswana series, but when he moved on to his 44 Scotland Street, what he did was create a fictitious town. Everyone knows it was, was that in 44 Scotland Street?
I haven't read that.
Okay. But it was a fictitious town where people could actually recognize Johannesburg or one of those major cities in it, but he never really came out and said that's what it is. But you have set it, very firmly in Bangalore, the Cunningham Road, the MG Road, the Chamrajpet. So do you think setting it in a fictitious town would have given you more creative liberty? Is this limiting?
No, so I explored with a completely make-believe world in my first book, and I wanted to explore, the real world in this one, in a way. So it was a deliberate choice, and yes, I could have set it somewhere there. But it is also that, I've been here for 14 plus years now, and in Bangalore, and it's become my home. We are basically, migrants to the city. And it has become my home, and I thought it was a time that I did a little love story for the place which I call home today. Sometimes you hate the traffic and everything else, but you still, love the city in many ways. So this is my little ode to Bangalore, and it is also, in a way, Bangalore seen through the eyes of the migrant. So obviously there have been books written over Bangalore and about Karnataka by people who've been here. But I think the way the migrant engages with the city is a little different from the way the people here engage. And today, if you look at Bangalore, it's become, the IT ghettos and the rest of Bangalore in a way. So we all stay in gated communities. We insulate ourselves from the city by, rolling up our glasses in our, in our AC thing. We don't know Kannada. And all those type of things are things that I wanted to talk about. And, maybe I can read a little bit from one of the passages, and that's the last passage I will bore you with, which in a way, talks about this thing. So, Ms. Hari Singh talked a little bit about Inspector Gowda, and obviously at some point of time, the Inspector Gowda and my hero, which is Mr. Chatterjee, get into a bit of a antagonistic situation. So there is the inspector chasing him for something that he's supposed to have done, and he's finally been able to locate Mr. Chatterjee's house. And the scene begins where he's standing in front of the apartment complex where Mr. Chatterjee stays. So I'll just read that section out a little bit. Inspector Gowda stepped out of his jeep and surveyed the sprawling apartment complex in front of him. Prestigious Meadows, read the neon light signboard that had been affixed to the main gate. He glanced at the slip of paper in his hand. Mr. S. Chatterjee, flat number 16 by 303, Prestigious Meadows. He read the words once again with a grim satisfaction. A name and an address, that is all he needed. The rest would be easy. He rubbed the end of the stick of his baton against his belly and treated himself to a pleasurable scratch. Mr. S. Chatterjee would soon find out what it meant to mess with the Bangalore police. He smiled in anticipation. On arriving at the main gate, the inspector paused for a moment to scan the surroundings. Before him stood row upon row of apartment blocks, each 10 stories high, neatly segregated by cobblestone pathways. To his right was a large expanse of green, with a line of sprinklers gently spraying droplets of sparkling clear water over the manicured Mexican grass. In the center stood a fountain in the shape of a giant pink dolphin, also spraying droplets of sparkling clear water through the opening in its upturned tail. It all looked most marvelously meadowish, clean, green and serene. Pooh! The inspector spat out in disgust. Burly mother. These were the people who had drained the waters of the Holy Calvary to fill up their swimming pools which they never used. These were the people who had their cars washed every morning while his ancestral land in Mandya had to be sold for a song because there was no water for irrigation. Here they lived in their thousands, these bloody IT fellows from the north, Delhi walas, UP walas, Biharis, Bengalis, Chinks, all the same, these bloody North Indian pagas. Like a flock of vultures, they had swooped upon his beloved Bengaluru and had laid it to waste. They had grabbed every job, covered every inch of empty land with their bloody flats and had jammed up the roads with their bloody SUVs until no one could go nowhere, never. To top it all, they even refused to utter a word of Kannada, apart from Godilla, and even had the gall to order around people in Hindi and English. Hell, The buggers didn't even know who Dr. Rajkumar was. Here the inspector tipped his cap in mute respect to the departed soul. Mistaking him for an undernourished Bollywood actor of the same name, whose only claim to fame was his near orgasmic delivery of a one-word dialogue, Jani. Bloody parasites, that was what they all were. All these Chatterjees and Chaudharys and Chaddhas and Chaturvedis who had infested his beloved Bangalore. It was high time that they were shown exactly where they belonged. A beginning had to be made somewhere, and he knew just the right place. Stick swinging by his side, he approached the security officer inside the guardroom at the entrance. He was a lanky young boy with a thin moustache and a pale blue uniform that is double his size, and hung loosely about him like a collapsed tent around its pole. At the sight of the inspector, the guard sprang to attention and crooked his arm into a shaky salute. Inspector Gowda stepped into the guardroom and thrust the slip of paper into the boy's face. "Know this man?" he asked with a hostility that would have done an Arnab Goswami proud. The guard glanced at the paper and stammered, "Yes sir, Mr. Chatterjee from building 16. That apartment there, right after the swimming pool." "Is he at home?" the inspector asked. "Yes sir, I think so," said the guard. "Very good," said Inspector Gowda with a pleased smile. He stomped down the doorway towards the house of Mr. Chatterjee.
I think the one thing we will all agree very unanimously here is the writing is so hilarious. It's really humorous and funny and satirical. And Nilanjan, how do you do that? Like, do you start writing when you're in a particularly light mood, or the writing itself takes you into the realm of feeling light and humorous?
It's about 10 to 8 now. People have been here for a while, so I'll make it a short answer. To me, I don't know why, but humor is very important to me. But as they say, humor is also a funny thing. It sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't work. So you have to try out all sorts of things. It doesn't come naturally to me, but I'm always trying to see situations, where the sort of the characters and the conflicts in the situations will lead to some funny situations. Right? So I don't know. It's a mysterious process. There is no algorithm to this, but it's an important thing for me. Just from Bangalore, which I was just talking about, would you like to say something about the second picture, the city map? For all you Bangalore lovers, there's a whole lot of places you will recognize in the book, and I hope you will resonate with it.
So the city map actually, it's something that I was developing alongside the artwork that finally made as a cover, and that was also a really messy, shoddy concept sketch that I had sent to Nilanjan initially, and I think he was questioning why he was collaborating with me at that point in time. But then this is something that, because he had touched upon a lot of these places that have a very unique character of its own, so it would add a very different dimension to its situation. So his comedy is situational, but the entire book is full of chuckles. So that sort of gave me an idea of various motives, which then, as the book progressed, I started placing it on the map. And then, which is why the big question mark here, because there were a lot of red herrings, and Gowda was chasing Chatterjee was chasing D'Souza, and then Mrs. Chadda was chasing him. So it just takes you all through the city, and it would have been criminal not to use a map there.
Thank you, Manami.
Yeah, actually, what, I went back and looked at all the pictures at the beginning of the chapter, because it really is a unique concept. Not many have done this in India. And now, without delaying any further, I want to ask the audience if you have any questions. I'm sure you all do. And here is your man.
Yes, okay.
Hello. Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Congratulations, Rajan.
Thank you.
For everyone else who doesn't know me, my name is Kuldeep, and I'm a colleague working with Nilanjan in the same office. I have a very simple, humble question. Nilanjan, play is over, book is launched. Can we start working now? Can we, for God's sake?
All I will tell you, Kuldeep, is that I have done my part. You need to close the deal.
Congratulations, that's all. Thank you very much from my side. Anybody else wants to say something? Anybody use the mic?
So Nilanjan, congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Nilanjan.
So, any protests so far from Jesuit organizations?
No, any Jesuit organization or individual present here? No, so no protest so far. I don't think they've read it. But I might just, airbomb a few copies into some nunnery here and then see how that goes. No, but if you read the book, you will figure out that it's unlike the hints that Ms. Hari Singh gave you. You will find out. Anyway, I don't want to say anything.
I have a question. So
Yes, please.
Follow up to that. So, have you soft pedaled on the inducement to those kind of extreme reactions based on feedback that you got about a previous book and a lot of the question answer sessions that you had never read?
No, not really. I don't think it played very heavily on my mind on this one. While writing this book, like I said, if it was a book again on Hindu mythology, it would have subconsciously pulled me down, which is why I deliberately avoided that. But while writing this, no, not really.
So you've been a scaredy cat and you're scared to admit that now.
I'm not a scaredy cat, but I really, the way I look at it, who am I to offend someone else through that? I mean, so people have their beliefs, let them stay. It gives them peace.
So that brings us to the end of the evening, and those of you who haven't yet bought the books, this is the right time to buy your copy and get it author signed. And I'm telling you, you will enjoy the book. It is an afternoon well taken care of, as they said. Thank you, Nilanjan. Thank you, Nami, for a wonderful book.
Thank you so much,